Hello, and welcome to another episode of Handcast. First up, I have to hold my hands up and say sorry that for those of you that have been loyally waiting for every episode, that I had to skip a week last week. Who knew that it would be quite a lot of work to take on to produce and edit and promote a podcast? So things got away with me the other week, and I just wasn't able to get it ready in time. So rather than busting a gut and causing a lot of pressure, I decided that the best thing to do was to just give myself another week. So here we are, slightly delayed, but ready to look at Dynamo P's Death Bastard. Actually, there was something that happened today that I thought I should share with you. I visited our local record shop called Grind and Groove that I haven't been into for 3 years. It turns out having a small child stops me from going to record shops. Who knew? Anyway, I got in there. It turns out he'd just come in to ownership of a copy of Change of Plan by Random Hand. So someone had got rid of his collection there. And as that's rarer than rocking horse shit right now, I was in the strange position of buying one of my own records because so many people out there are asking for that record so often, and it's quite expensive to get hold of now. I thought I'd have to do it, and he was nice enough to sell me it at half the market value as well as he was selling it to me, and he thought it'd be funny enough for the story. So I've got a copy of that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. I feel like something charitable will be good because I know there's a lot of people after it, so I might find a way to raise some money because I know we've been talking about that recently. Because we don't do so much, we find it quite hard to find the time to do charitable work, and we have to turn a lot of things down that we would in principle really like to do. So I think sooner or later we'll put together some kind of raffle or something like that. I haven't quite worked out what it's going to be, but keep your eyes out and there will be an opportunity to win a pretty pristine copy of Change of Plan on vinyl from the original pressing. Before we get into Dynamo P's Death Bastard, Robin starts us off with a lovely fact about Christopher Nolan and how he may have contributed to winter deaths over the last few years since the release of Batman. Then we get into the genesis of the name, which I'm sure you're all very keen to know about. As many of you are aware, we resurrect a lot of these songs recently to play at Handfest, and we get into this one especially and how it was quite fun teaching the weirder bits to Dan. It's also important to say this song did mark a big change for us, how Robin started to change his lyrical content a little bit, and this was one of the first ones where he kind of moved away from the socio-political stuff and into the mental health stuff. And that did kind of inspire a lot of conversation about the songs that came after that, and how that became quite a big part of us moving forward. And we had quite a deep dive discussing the impact that's had on us, and it's a really nice conversation, actually. I think it's a really important conversation for me and Robin to have, and I'm glad that you guys get to witness it because I think it says a lot about the band and says a lot about who we are and how we've developed over the years. And it certainly was helpful for us to kind of revisit those things. Robin also gets into the fact that, he's always trying to balance who he's representing when he's writing those lyrics and trying not to kind of make it too much about him. And I won't say too much now, but it was really good to have that conversation as well. So yeah, before we get into it, while we have you, please do the all usual things. Do the liking and the subscribing. Click all that stuff. If you have anything to say, please get in the comments. Please let us know what you're thinking on wherever it is you're listening, because it makes such a big difference to this. Again, if you know anyone that's going to listen to it or what might listen to it, please share it. That will also help. The response that we've had so far has meant so much, and the fact that people are talking to us about it and it's meant a lot to you is great. So please continue to listen and let us know what you think. And any questions come up, please let us know. So without further ado, let's get into Dynamo P's Death Bastard. Moving swiftly on
from last week.
Oh, sorry, yes. Moving on from last week's episode.
Same hat, same jumper, same rehearsal fridge.
Same cold as fuck.
Rub the thighs.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting back to shivering territory.
A little tidbit for you.
Go on.
Batman Begins.
Yes.
You know where he's in the training phase, where he's out in the east, and he's getting trained by Liam Neeson.
Yes, Mr.
They have the fight on the ice.
Yes.
And he falls through it, and they're sat by the fire.
Yes.
And Liam Neeson,
Yes.
he's sort of this. Liam Neeson goes,
Yes.
rub your chest, your arms will take care of themselves.
Yeah.
So in an interview, Christopher Nolan says that's complete nonsense. It was like, I have no basis of knowledge for that at all. No, so when I wrote that line, I just thought I have no survival knowledge on that. It might be complete nonsense.
That is brilliant.
So don't take your
I
survival
wonder how many
knowledge
people
have died because they'll be like, I saw Christian Bale doing this.
Yes.
Yeah. But there you go. That's a little extra for you.
Yeah. Very good.
Thank you.
So Dynamo Penis Death Bastard.
Yes. Hello.
Well, I mean, we have to start with the name, really, don't we?
Do we?
Yeah, I think we do.
Because we didn't for the song. We started with the song.
We very much ended with the name.
Yeah. Yep.
I remember this being upstairs at Vision.
Really?
Yes.
Actually, I'm really impressed with this.
And you literally...
rooms that we were in.
You pointed... You went, give me a word.
I did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. This is.
You went round the room.
I do remember... Yeah, I do remember everyone just spouting a load of nonsense. That's it. Full spoilers and apologies to anyone who's ever derived any deeper meaning from this.
Yeah.
The title for this song is nonsense.
It's the first word that came into each of our heads.
It's
And Robin pointed round the room, and I'm pretty sure I said bastard.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure you went Dynamo and Matt went penis. Dimmers went death. I went bastard.
That might make sense to how we were stood.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was. I remember somebody else coming up with stuff. I don't.
It was you.
As in, like, I don't remember us doing a word each.
All right, yeah, it was a word each.
I thought
you literally went around the room.
All right.
You.
Oh, I thought somebody came out with it, but
yeah, no,
fair enough.
No, it was a word each, and it was after we'd kind of you'd explained the subject matter, and that kind of fed.
So it maybe does have some relevance.
I think it does.
It does have. Okay, so it's apologies. It's
I think it does have relevance.
It does have some relevance. It's just a sort of a weird sort of group stream of consciousness relevance to it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
It's like kind of like word association.
That's what I think. You know what? After nearly 20 years, I feel better about that now.
Okay.
I'm glad we had this discussion. So my memories are.
Mm-hmm.
This was like a jammer. I remember you guys jamming this, and I don't know if it was you were working on that bass line and Matt was throwing the chords over the bass line, but I remember you guys sort of noodling away with it, and it just having this really nice groove.
Yeah.
And this little... I'm sure Matt seemed to have this style where he liked to do the flip between the distortion and the ska things. He did it in a few other bits.
Yeah.
And pitched a few things like that. But he seemed to like doing the quick distortion, ska groove sort of thing. But I remember you guys sort of playing about jamming that, and it just sounded very cool. It sounded very interesting.
I was always fond of those quick stabs. I was always encouraging of that, and I still am quite encouraging of that.
Yeah,
it just always it felt like rather than having a full chorus of metal, it felt good to just kind of put more of that little metal twist into the ska bits.
I think this is a tune as well that has a bit. Going back to what I've been saying earlier about, in my opinion, the songwriting as a whole for the band being more concise as the band progressed. There's a lot of cool bits in this tune, but it still sounds a bit, in a cool way, it sounds a bit disjointed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's sort of the way that it feeds into the chorus is quite... It's not as fluid as something that we might have done later on.
Yeah, there's a lot of ideas in that song where we've gone, that's cool, put that on next. What's next? Put something cool next.
Totally,
and then we haven't done the trim the fat thing. And there's more about, when we get to anthropology, there's a lot to chat about that because we trimmed a lot of fat on that one. But we definitely weren't there with this song. Yeah, I get what you mean. And especially learning it again and trying to, when we were learning it with Dan, for these gigs, there was a lot of because Dan's like so good at cutting the fat, trimming the fat. You know what I mean? He's like, that's his thing. Like really good at kind of going, well, do we really need to do that 8 times? Dan
is quality control.
Yeah, quality control.
He's into the conveyor belt going, polish that, tighten that, do that. That makes sense now.
So, and I could see it.
I just need to do a little... He is quite often at the front of the conveyor belt. He doesn't just polish other people's ideas. He generates a lot of material. He's very good at writing stuff. I just didn't... Yeah. I didn't want you to think that Dan just stands at the end going what have you guys got? Well, here's how to make it better. He's way more than that. Yeah.
But in that context, I could just see him just the guy going, really? While we were doing, bringing those bits out. It's like, he does what? Oh, he does that again. He does that like that. And it's like, yeah, sorry, Dad, you can't edit this. Like we are.
It's been committed to history. This is what it is.
But there's a lot of that, like there's is there extra bars added here and there as well? Like the ending definitely, like there are definitely things in that song that not listened to it like today, so I can't really think. But there's definitely some bits in there that are just definitely surplus to requirements.
I think all that's. Like, I don't think there's any quirky timing. Like, I think it's a pretty standard count all the way through. But there'll be like 2-bar pause, couple of stabs, 2-bar pause. You know what I mean, or whatever. There's a lot of that sort of thing going on. Which is like you've been saying. I think it's just like, oh yeah, that was a cool idea. Throw it in. That was a cool idea. Sort of throwing all different bits in.
Yeah.
But again, when we played it recently, it still sort of felt more fluid than I remembered. In my head, it's a much more.
I think it is fluid and it does work. It's just not fluid in the same way that we would right now. And I think we've got shorthands and we've got grooves. We've got half different band. So we have kind of like developed in the way that we write and the way that we play now. That I think
I have long hands, by the way, just to throw that there. I was a bit slow on that, but you said short hands. And then he carried on talking.
Said shorthand.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, right. I have a long hand. Doesn't work as much, does it?
No.
Can you cut that out? We'll cut that out. You're going to leave it in,
I'm
aren't you?
going to leave it in,
He's going to leave this in. I want you to know, though, that I said he was going to leave it in, so I still look like I'm coming out on top.
Okay.
What were you saying?
I don't know.
But again, it's harking back to what we're saying about how a lot of people... It's a lot of people's favourite Random Band album because of those reasons.
Yeah.
Because it's more... There's these left field ideas jumping out left and right, you know what I mean? And that sort of makes it more unique and interesting and all the rest of it. So it's it definitely has its own sort of unique stamp on it, I think, particularly in that track. Lyrically, it was sort of this is sort of one of the first examples really I can remember of writing something which wasn't as socio-political and was more sort of for want of a better word, sort of psychological really. It was kind of it was more leaning on a mental health theme than a political theme really, or anything of that manner, and it's a character that is sort of feeling disjointed from the world around them, and a bit sort of isolated and a bit cut out, and it's more kind of the sort of demons that sort of character might put on themselves in that situation. It was sort of a bit more, and I can't really. It's something that I've written quite a bit since, but it's something that I might struggle to think of many examples prior to that. In the run-up before their album, there might be. So I mean, I guess Mr. Bib. There's definitely elements of that in Mr. Bib. You know what I mean? That's certainly, the neurosis and the anxiety is in that.
Because like obviously there's a certain autobiographical nature to the neurosis in songs and the mental health stuff that you go into. It's weird at the time. It felt like you were. I suppose as an observer and a friend, I didn't cotton on to it as much in the earlier days. Like I didn't see you in Mr. Bib. Do you know what I mean? I didn't really see you in Dynamo P, Death Bastard, and a few other songs like that. I didn't see I just thought you being creative about a subject, if you know what I mean. And I don't think it was till like I Human and stuff like that when we did when we did Inhale Exhale, where I suddenly kind of was like, where the penny dropped that it was a projection of more where you're at than necessarily kind of observing something. To
be honest, I tried to stay away from that as much as possible because I was sort of, I mean, I know different people have different processes, but my thing was always I was very much 1/4 of a band and I didn't want to do. I mean, to be honest, like I had a bit of a rule that I kind of staunchly didn't want to do anything that was personal. I wanted to write on behalf of the band. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I wanted to be the voice. I wanted the lyrics to be the voice of the band. And it's sort of, it's for want of a better word, easier to do that with political subject matter or sort of sociological subject matter because, you're talking about something outside of yourself a lot of the time. I mean, you might have your own personal politics which feed into that, obviously, but you're sort of talking about something which you can all get on board with collectively. Whereas if you started talking about things like psychology, that is more of mental health.
Yeah.
That is inevitably. I mean, you can talk about those things as a separate subject, but you can't help but have some of that stuff bleed. If you have mental health issues and you're writing about mental health, I guess it's only inevitable that your experiences are going to melt into that.
Yeah.
But I never kind of, like I say, I always felt a bit funny about it. I always felt a bit funny about putting any of myself into the lyrical content on behalf of the band, because I almost felt like it wasn't right in a way. Yeah. I always sort of felt like I couldn't get on stage with 3 other people and say something about myself. Do you know what I mean? I'll sing something about myself, and it's kind of... But I guess I took it from the point of view of I was maybe trying to represent an idea which a lot of other people go through as well. And, maybe kind of address that as more of a collective thing. But I think... Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like Mr. Bib and Dynamo, they're certainly not explicitly about me, at all. You know what I mean? They're sort of they're characters which represent something which I can write around. Yeah. But I think, like I say, if you're writing about that sort of thing, that anything has like a bit of a psychological lilt to it, then it's almost inevitable that a bit of that is going to slip through. I know sprinkle it.
I know we've talked about it more, but do you feel more comfortable putting you in it now? And
yeah, but probably because I've run out of things to write about. You know what I mean? I've done all the ideas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because I know I've said it before, but it does warrant saying that no one has any problem with you. Not speaking for yourself, and not you don't need to think of yourself as a quarter on the vocal, because you are a good 80-90% of the vocal output. So it's kind of it goes without saying that none of us would have an issue to what amount you put of yourself in that, and you don't need to worry about every single bit representing us to that degree. And I don't think anyone would. And I know we have talked about it before, but it just, I think, does warrant being said again that you can go as personal as you need to, and it's because I suppose that we've been a band together for so long that. It's just as important to us that you get to do that and get to express yourself in fully. Do you know what I mean? Like, and there was a period probably maybe 10, 15 years ago when it was like, I might have agreed with you more that you should be, making it more, talking for everybody to a degree. And it's like, we had time in our life to maybe have other projects, and you could do a solo thing and you could do this and that. But like, it's become very apparent that this is our creative vehicle that works. Like I've tried to do other things. I've tried to put time into other things, but I can't make them work to this degree. So this has become the creative vehicle that I need to express myself in. So like I don't now go and write stuff and go, ooh, I might keep that for another band, or I might keep this for another band. And, and I still do have folders of stuff for other bands or other ideas, but nothing happens with them, So I'm like, okay, this isn't a very random hand thing, but I think it's pretty good. So I'm going to bring it, and that's, like, look at the last album, like Here Lies the Music, that those riff ideas and that idea, although it changed massively from what I initially came up with, the spirit of it was very much the same as what I intended. And that on paper was probably an idea for another, 10 years ago, I'd have probably written that and then just put it in a folder when I make a heavier band, And I think that's the way I think about this musically. And also like song ideas wise, and I think you should feel comfortable now that this is your creative outlet, and you've got every right to put every bit of you into it, in a way that you maybe didn't 15 years ago.
Yeah, I think I've sort of had a very similar journey. You know what I mean? I think I've kind of come around to the idea that it is okay to do that, and you don't have to sort of be as compartmentalized with your ideas, and it's okay to put that in. I guess it's just kind of like I say, I was sort of always, I was hyper, I'm quite, I'm a Showboaty frontman, you know what I mean? I tend to, I'm not shy about delving into that side of myself in front of an audience. You know what I mean? And I've sort of I know I've said this before many times. I've sort of you know, if I'm asked what my kind of approach on stage is or whatever, I'd describe it as like sort of someone going through a mental breakdown while simultaneously trying to show off. That's sort of, you know, it's like an apex of my mental health problems and my showboating. Yeah. But I was always aware that I didn't want it to be me and these three guys around me while I explored my own things. You know what I mean? It was very important to me that it's the unit. You know what I mean? Which was fed into the writing. You know what I mean? And I always wanted to be this. You know, this is what the. And this is why quite often I would, you know, always be well up for. It's weird. I've heard. I mean, not a huge amount, but I have heard stories of bands being like, "Oh, I asked the singer what this song was about," and they were like, "Oh, it's kind of too personal to go into." And I was kind of like, "Dude, like your band is playing that song. Like, get them. You know what I mean? Like, why would you do that? Like, And I apologize if that is that's how you go about things. But I would struggle to connect with that, and I'd always wanted to kind of be. And I remember when Sean joined the band.
I'm just going to stop you there.
Yeah.
He apologizes, but I don't apologize. I think it's fucking bullshit.
There you go. That's right. But yeah, I remember when Sean joined, we had these hours and hours on the phone where he'd be going through the songs. You know what I mean? He'd be like, "Can I just ask what this song's about? What's the point?" And that was brilliant. Yeah. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be like, because I want to, and it was always very important to me that when I write.
Well, he was just looking for any excuse to say no and not join. That's what it was. It's like, not quite my tempo.
Just taking something out of context and hang on, what's it?
Milk?
No,
damn, that's racism, right? Okay.
But yeah, so writing on behalf of the band was something I was always hyper aware of. But like you said, I think in recent years I've kind of softened to the idea of being able to use it more of like. I mean, I still wouldn't even say that anything I write for the band is like an explicitly personal thing, but there's probably more of myself going into it nowadays. And
also, I suppose there is the fact that just as a side effect of us being a band for 20 years, like there's a comfort, isn't there? There's a shorthand, longhand. There's a shorthand between us now where we all get each other. You know, and we're so familiar with each other that you probably know that most of what you're going to say and how you would present is totally acceptable. Whereas maybe 10, 15 years ago, you didn't know that you could. You didn't know that you could express that you were struggling with certain things, or you didn't know that certain levels of anxiety or you needed support in a certain way. And we didn't know that you needed it, you know, whereas now, you know, we all, I think, know each other to a point, probably better than we know most people in, you know, other people in our lives. That there is a comfort that allows you to not have to think about it the same way you did, you know. You know,
I think it makes it easier to bring it to the fore a bit more, be a bit more open about it. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously you've seen me do it. I've literally had mental meltdowns on stage, and I've had to turn to the crowd and go like, "I'm really sorry. I'm in a really bad place mentally at the moment. Give me a second." You know what I mean? And I think I think that's a really healthy thing to do. That, you know what I mean? I think if you can kind of, I mean, I know this is a far more complicated subject and people's experiences with it are different, but I think if you can sort of treat it like any other kind of, you know, like I've hurt my knee, give me a moment. You know, my head's not in the. You know, this is a thing that has gripped me a moment. You know what I mean? Let me work through it, and then I'll try and. You know, I didn't mean to. I mean downplay it, obviously. With the
no, but you mean you need to treat. You do need to treat that. I don't think that's downplaying it. You know, people so often don't look at it like that, and that's the problem. They think because they can't see it, it's not an issue. Well, but it's like it does need to be treated like you've hurt you've sprained your ankle.
Yeah, one of the worst things you can do about it is getting your own head about it and be like, you know, what's wrong with me? Why am I weird? Oh no, you know what I mean? Because it gets worse. Then do you know what I mean? If you kind of, I mean, obviously it's okay to say what's wrong with me. How can I go about helping myself and cure it? But I think sort of obviously beating yourself up about it as though there is something broken with you and that is something to be ashamed of is not a headspace you want to be going down with it, and if it can be more forthright. But by heck, we've really taken a turn, haven't we?
Yeah, we were talking about Dynamo P and stuff. But
That's really. I never expected that to come out of that track. There you go. When we were rehearsing it for Handfest, the jubilation on your face when it came to shouting that.
Dynamo P.
Yeah, loved it. It was like the happiest I've ever seen you performing music.
Getting it right, getting it in the right place.
Well, you seem to just
it was great. I really loved revisiting all those songs, actually. Some more than others, but every single one of them brought me, while we were playing them, it was like memories were like an explosion. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
it just like full on, like put me back in, just totally put me back in all those things. It was like, I'm at the Vic Inn in Derby. I'm at loads of venues that have closed, loads of places. Just like I'm at the 1 in 12 club here, and we were rehearsing them, and I was just like, I was there, back again for the first time in all those years, and just like all those gigs, all those people, and like the youth of it as well. We were so much younger, kids. It feels like now. We were young adults, but it does feel like.
In Red the Band, are you? 30 years better, boy. Getting there now. Jeez.
Yeah. But it was such a pleasure to play these songs again. Seeing what playing those songs did again to a room full of people in Leeds. Like I could not, for the life of me, predicted that that's what that gig would feel like, and that gig that night was unreal. The audience were just from the first note, the whole pit was just electric, and we rode it. And I know we've had nights like that in that venue before, and the year before playing our 20th gig was like that as well. That was great, but there was something slightly more relaxed about this, and just a bit more, celebratory. Revisiting that album, and it kind of it made me see it how the people who think it's their favourite album see it, going back to it that way. And especially songs like Dynamo P Death Bastard. I mean, because of its name, it's still people still call it out and have called it out over the years.
Well, why wouldn't you shout that?
Why would, if a band's got that in there? I
mean, that's that's just a bit of advice in general.
Yeah.
If you're trying to name a song, just throw a load of completely disjointed profanities in there.
Yeah,
and then people will forever call it out because they like shouting that sort of stuff.
And it was. I kind of like the idea that now everyone knows it, because if we hadn't have played that album, we would have never learned that song again, and we wouldn't have seen what people think about it, and we wouldn't have enjoyed it. And I think there's a lot in that song that is really enjoyable. And I talked about my playing and stuff, and that was a song where at the time I remember was me showing off a bit, playing a bit of a fancier bass line.
There's a bit of noodle in there,
and like more. I suppose it isn't a traditional ska bass line, but it is that kind of. It's what a lot of third wave ska bass players were doing, and they were playing, doing a lot of not overplaying, but lots of complex playing, and that was one of those songs where I did that. So it was nice to kind of remind myself that.
Well, to my head, it's almost a bit specialsy. It's like the sort of it's like the more is it Horace Panther? Wasn't it? It was a special bass player, and he had this thing where it was basically this more. It was sort of reggae lines, but with a lot more like oomph and speed to them, and that's what that feels like to me. It's like a sort of a bit of a ramped up reggae line almost.
Yeah.
Which works really well for that, and works really well for that groove. On a recording front, on the writing, another riffy end.
Yeah.
Riff the end. Also,
good riffy end. That
good
one,
riffy end. You like it? The old, you're digging in at the old, Is there also there's like a produced glitch, isn't there? On the album, on the recorded version.
Where?
You know what it goes? It goes like and I'm sure one of those like the first digger isn't. It's not like. I don't think it's you guys playing it. I think it's like. It's like
bringing back
a fraction of it that's been edited to sound like it's you guys doing that.
That's bringing back,
and you can kind of hear it a bit on the.
We're gonna have to find it. I think
we're gonna have to find it.
We're gonna find it.
Sorry.
Have I got the
I mean, it's all right for you. It's bloody freezing in here. I'm having to sit here while he finds it.
Are you okay?
How can any ensemble be creative in this Arctic hellhole?
Just while I'm finding this, just stand up. Just move your legs a second. It'll help. Trust me. Right, I found it. So, you saying about how far in?
Right at the end, mate. End riff. No, that's the beginning of the tune.
Here.
Now play it again from the chorus. Is that the previous version then? I seem to remember a version of this where there's like a glitched. Is that from? That's Change of Plan, innit? That's not.
Yeah.
I seem to remember a thing where there was like a glitched, like a chopped, like it was like a.
I think you're thinking of anger management.
No, I'm thinking it was somewhat older. It was somewhat of Change of Plan. I'm sure it was. I'm sure there's a riffy bit where it's like there's like a glitched. Maybe in this tune, but I'm sure there's a riffy bit that's like a. It's like they took this. It's like Pete took the stab.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It definitely is right, but
nah.
We're gonna have to come back to that.
We'll come back to that. You know what? It's entirely possible I made that up.
No, it sounds really right. It sounds really right. It could be like the end of Danger Makes Enemies.
Oh, is it somewhat on Inhale that I'm thinking of?
Well, I think my first thought was it was Inhale. But it might be, there was definitely something that was changed in the studio that wasn't originally there, and then we started playing it.
Right.
And I think it was either Inhale or maybe it's like maybe Danger Makes Enemies, or maybe no. Well, we're gonna have to talk. We're gonna have to research, and then when we come back,
we'll look back.
Not next week, but the week after.
Yes,
we'll have answers.
We'll do answers.
Yes.
Quite like the middle eight in this as well, just as a point.
Yeah.
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 I've got a on the middle eight.
Yeah.
I've got a recollection of there being a gig at the 1 in 12, an alt track played.
Yeah.
Who's a couple of mates of ours, Pete and Mickey, who was sort of like a
trip hoppy.
Yeah, they're like sort of that kind of thing, that kind of vibe. It was like there was keyboard, sort of Simon and Garfunkel meets a Moog. There was keyboards, there was stuff with wires in. It was that sort of vibe. Yeah. But they did a bit of a tune, and they wanted me to guest. Like Pete was like, "Oh, you should do some rapping on it," like at the gig, and I was like, "I don't know what to do," and he was like, "Oh, just do that bit from Dynamo." And I just did that in the middle of some alt track bit. Made no sense, but it was great.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I remember it.
Well, you would.
I might have been wearing this hat.
Probably.
Or a very similar one. Yep.
What was I going to say? Oh, right. So there is a thing. I think that there is a bit in that tune that was an error. You know where it does the where it flows in, where the bass line starts flowing in the second verse.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think Dimmer's started changing his rhythm to be like the flowy bit a whole set earlier. Yeah, I think that was supposed to be.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I think that was actually an accident, and then we just kind of rolled with it.
Is it like that bit in what's the Police tune?
Oh,
where he's still playing the drums double time, and then he goes half.
Yeah,
it's exactly like that.
Exactly like that.
What it's basically the Police.
No, I always really like that little the fact that it was there was definitely Dimmer I think starts it early, but it kind of still works, and it's a nice little. Yeah, it's one of, again. We wouldn't make. I doubt we'd do that. We'd let something like that get through. But like then it was capturing a band, capturing a moment, and it felt right to keep things in like that. So anything else about writing, recording, or performing?
I don't know, but it's gonna that little cut riff bit is gonna do my head in now.
Yeah.
Because I could have sworn it was that. I could have sworn it was that digga 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 digga. I could have sworn it was that bit.
I don't think it was that.
Is there another riff which is we recycle a lot of stuff, don't we?
Yeah.
We're extremely samey.
Yeah.
So is there another riff somewhere where it's that and there is an edited bit cut into it?
Quite possibly, but we're gonna have to do it. You're gonna have to go home and find it.
I'm not listening to us. Are you insane?
Fucking, I'll do it then.
Yeah, you can do it.
Bastard.
What?
So there we have it. That is episode 4. Dynamo Penis Death Bastard is down and done. So that was the last one of the first 4 that me and Robin recorded. We will be starting next week with the background will look like this. We recorded them a lot more recently. It was marginally warmer, only marginally. But yeah, we get into anthropology in the next one, which is a big important song. It's probably changed the band. Probably every bit as important to our history as like Play Some Ska and Scum is. So yeah, please stick around for that. Come see us next week. In that episode, there was a bit of a chat about the edit. There was a weird kind of edit that was in the song that we didn't actually play, and I'm pretty sure it's actually in that version. It is right there. It's just not, because I think when we did it initially, it sounded quite digital to us, or it was out unexpected. But it doesn't, because it became what we played. It's almost noticeable now, and I think the actual edit itself is something that we can't hear now, really. So that's that sorted. The Police track that we were talking about that does something similar to that kind of unintentional flow change that I was talking about. I can't work out what song that was. I've forgotten what it was. And I was supposed to go away and find out before I recorded this outro, and I can't find it anywhere. I did a quick Google, and Google didn't help at all, but I know there is a song, and I'm pretty sure it's one of the big ones, which has a similar little thing where, they were recording the take live, and the groove's not what was meant, matching the guitar and everything like that, but it worked, and it sounds good. Even though I used the word mistake, I don't feel like it was a mistake. I think it was an important little bit of recording history to do things like that, and I've always been like that. There's other things that we've done on albums. There's a few things like that on Seething, because we recorded that quite similarly that we left in. So yeah, we will get into them as they come. One thing I do keep forgetting to mention is the fact that we do gigs. There are gigs all over the place, and they're being promoted right now. So please come out. If you're listening to this as we release it, next month we're in Sheffield at the end of April on the 25th, I think. Then Glasgow on the 26th for Scotland Calling. Harrigan are playing with us in Sheffield, and Period Drama, and I think we've just added Abracadabra as well to that gig as well, so that's going to be a good one on the Friday. And then in May we're doing a ridiculous gig at St George's Hall in Bradford, so if you can get to it, please come along. That's really important. And there's a bunch of other stuff. There's Liverpool coming up, there's Nottingham. Come and see us. We really need you to. It's why we do it. So yeah, without any more faffing from me, thank you very much. This has been Handcast, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Round and round the cycle goes again.